So tonight, first of all, we're going to do a review on the movie Dune, the new one. But tonight we have a special guest. Tonight we have
Captain Keith.
And we have
Joselito.
And I'm Jay. What's going on, fellas?
Hey, man, not much, man. Hey, it's good to be alive, man.
Yeah, definitely grateful for you guys for inviting me in on this great chat, and looking forward to it.
Oh, no problem, man. It's nice to have you.
Yeah.
So it was a funny story how we met Joselito. We met him at we were watching another movie, matter of fact, and Captain Keith, being the person that he is, I'm a nice person, I guess, but I'm not that social. So Captain Keith is definitely the social one, and he saw this dude, and we started doing like a little small talk about the movie, and he's into the same kind of stuff that we're into as well. And we figured, like, with this movie, he knows a lot about it, he's passionate about it, and we thought it'd be a good asset to have for this conversation. And we even ended up, all three of us, going to the movies together to experience it together, which was really cool. Joselito, please tell us a little bit of something about yourself, as far as like what kind of stuff are you into as far as like IP?
Yeah, for me, I definitely am a big Star Wars fan. Well, big in terms of like the original, with the original cast, the episode 4, starting from episode 4. I will say that I gave the recent trilogy, the ending trilogy of Star Wars, a chance. I mean, I wasn't too harsh on it, but I have my opinions on it. It wasn't my favorite, but I'm still a Star Wars fan. I love the Star Wars world, and I also am a big Star Trek fan as well. I love the comic book movies, Marvel, but I'm actually more of a DC fan. So, I'm pretty much a big fan of a lot of the recent superhero and also the recent sci-fi movies, and also looking forward to what happens with Dune, the new Dune series.
Right on. And Joselito, he's also a writer, and he's also starting a future podcast, so we're going to be looking out for that when that comes out, for sure. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I was thinking about it, but it was very fortunate. Just totally random luck that I was able to meet you guys, and we just got to talking about what we liked and what we didn't like about the movie that we first saw, and also with Dune. And then when I found out you guys have a podcast, it got me even more excited, because that's something that I definitely wanted to do. So I'm glad that you guys let me, kind of sit in on this, and looking forward to it.
Right on, man. It's great to have you. All right, so we'll start with so we're talking about the new movie Dune, and it's directed by Denis Villeneuve. Excellent director. I love it. I love all his movies. He also is one of the writers on the movie as well. And then also it stars Timothée Chalamet, and then Rebecca Ferguson, and you got Zendaya, and you got Dave Bautista, and you got it's
Jason
this
Momoa.
Movie is a who's who of actors. And so a slight synopsis for the film is, this is like a feature adaptation of Frank Herbert's science fiction novel. It's about a son of a noble family, and he's entrusted with the protection of the most valuable asset and the most vital element in the galaxy. And so some people might be familiar with the original movie done by David Lynch. Some might be familiar with limited series that they had, also the original book and things like that. But this is a brand new vision by a new director who has love for the lore, and so this is his interpretation of it. I will say I really enjoyed it. I seen the David Lynch film years ago, and for some reason I didn't really take to it. and also I didn't remember a lot of it. So for me, watching this new movie, it was like a brand new experience. I will say that I was not lost, even though I wasn't familiar with the lore or the people and things like that. I thought it was easy to follow. I thought it was directed brilliantly. I love the soundtrack, it was good. The score was cool. The actors were cool. It was felt very full. I think sometimes it's hard to do that with a new property that people aren't familiar with. It's so hard to get an understanding of the people and who they are and their placement and things like that. But I had no problem with that at all. It kept me interested. I think that to me, it's almost similar to how Lord of the Rings was as far as the pacing. But I think the story is so interesting that you don't really miss anything. And by the time it gets to a certain point, the action kicks in. And so it's just like a cool journey for me. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to what happens next with it.
With Denis Villeneuve, or Villeneuve, my first exposure to him was Arrivals. Didn't care for that movie at all. I liked the cinematography. I didn't like the story at all. So I wasn't really that impressed with him until I saw Blade Runner 2049. I really enjoyed that film immensely. I like it better than the original. Still don't know why people love the original so much. I don't get it. But the second one, what he did was breathtaking. I didn't care how it was, the pacing, all of it was perfect. And so when the news came out that he was going to be doing remaking Dune, 30 something years after, David Lynch, I'm like, okay, well, when I saw what he did with Blade Runner 2049 and the visuals of it and the cinematography, I'm like, okay, well, he'll make it look very nice. So I was excited about his version of it. In regards to what I saw, the cinematography was nice. It was, the direction was cool for the most part, but I had a few problems with it. I'm split on the film. I'm split on it. I'm very divided on it. I never thought I would be divided on a Dune film, and I am. In regards to the original movie that David Lynch did and the miniseries that the Sci-Fi Channel did, I have definitely, there was no division whatsoever on my feelings. This film literally split me down the middle, and I'm just sad about it. So,
would you recommend it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
Well, I can't give it praise, but I will watch the sequel, and maybe part 2 of Dune will be better. But yeah, the stuff that I don't like really just kind of, it's not sitting well with me. So yeah, in good conscience, I can't recommend it.
Okay. And so, Joselito, what did you feel about the movie?
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of the director, Villeneuve. I know that, of course, he did, as Keith mentioned, he mentions Arrival. Mm-hmm. I mean, Arrival also wasn't my favorite movie, but I respect, I view this director in the same way that I respect and view like Nolan, mm-hmm. Christopher Nolan or Ridley Scott, where when you watch their movies, you know that you're going to be plunged into their world, because they definitely, these are directors where whether or not you like their movies that they release, you're going to get an experience whether you like it or not. They definitely, they're great craftsmen in terms of building worlds, and that's no different. And I'll mention that one of my favorite Villeneuve movies is Sicario. I love that movie. It's just so awesome. Anyways, but on this in Dune, I will say this. I will give. I'm kind of giving it kind of like an apples and oranges type of comparison with the David Lynch movie, because the way I look at it, I would recommend this movie if you never read the books. Meaning, if you just wanted to watch this movie to have an experience, you would enjoy it. But if you read the books and if you're really well versed in it, like, I don't know, like they call them Trekkie fans for Star Trek, and for I don't know the term for the fanatic Star Wars people. I don't know for Dune if there's going to be a name for the fanatic Dune people, fans, Dunites or Doonies. I don't know what you're going to call them.
Dunites, I like it.
Yeah, Dunites. But I'll consider myself a Doonie myself. But I think for those people, I don't necessarily dislike it, and I would still recommend it either way. But I would recommend it with a cautionary to say that it's not going to be what you expect it to be. But it's still, I still enjoyed the movie. I would still recommend it.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Okay. And for the record, I did really like his movie Arrival. I really did. I like Sicario. I love Prisoners. I love Enemy. But okay.
Sicario was dope. I didn't know that was his film. I didn't enjoy that. I did. That was a great film. Yeah. So.
I forgot he did Enemy too. Enemy was a great film. That was such a good movie. I forgot he did that.
I don't know if you've seen it, but check out Prisoners as well.
I got to see that.
Hugh Jackman
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I got to watch that.
I don't think I have either.
Yeah, I think you guys will enjoy it.
Okay.
All right. So that is our recommendation portion. So Captain Keith would not recommend it. I would recommend it. And Joselito, he would recommend it too, but with caution. Okay, so let's get into our spoiler part. And I think that you guys are going to have a lot more to say about this part than me. And that's fine. Who would like to start?
Keith, I'll let you start.
First, let me say to you, Jay, and you, Joselito, and all the people of the known universe. This breaks my heart. I mean, this is my favorite story of all time. This is my favorite book. So I've been waiting 20 plus years for this remake. So, I take no pleasure in not recommending this film at all. I'm really bummed out about it. But let me start from the beginning. Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica. First of all, she's a great actress. I've enjoyed her in The White Queen and Mission Impossible and Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. She's a great actress, but as Lady Jessica, when we see her on Caladan, it's like she looks like a battered, beaten up wife. She doesn't look like this beautiful, majestic Bene Gesserit woman, who is the concubine of Duke Leto Atreides. I mean, when you read about her in the book, and even if you see David Lynch's version with Francesca Annis, she's this beautiful, breathtaking woman that captivates you. You know why, she's the Duchess of Caladan. You know why she's the Duke's concubine. You know why she's Paul's mother. But when I'm watching this film, I didn't feel that way. She didn't start to really blossom and grow until they got to the desert, ironically. So I thought that was really weird and interesting how they kind of downplayed her looks on purpose. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, is this Lady Jessica? Because she didn't feel like it to me. So that was the first thing. Then the fact that, we see Duke Leto's Mentats, Thufir Hawat, and we see Baron Harkonnen's Mentat, Pita DeVries, but there's no explanation about who they are. These men have human computers. I mean, they're human computers. That's how their brains are trained.
But I got that from, I didn't even know that's what they were, but I got that from watching it.
I didn't get that from watching it.
Well, one of the things that I think that Jason, I'm glad you picked that up, but one of the things that the book talks about, and this is a little bit of background about the book, is in that world, in that universe of Dune, the history is that humans had a previous war against thinking machines, right? So the whole premise up to the current history now with that movie, with Dune, with the story Dune, is that humans have gotten to the state where they don't want to rely on machines. So you have this where you have mentats where they're supposed to be like the ultimate, like meaning like in terms of evolution, they're supposed to be like near the top in terms of intelligence and being able to analyze stuff similar to a computer, because they're not basically, without the use being reliant on a computer or machines. This is supposed to be humanity at the highest evolved level in terms of like with the mentats, Dr. Yui and like the Bene Gesserit, basically that. So that's the whole, just a little bit of sprinkling background about why the importance with exactly what Keith was saying, where the movie really doesn't talk about the importance of who the mentats are. I mean, they just seem like regular guys the way they make it. Like when Thufir, like gives his resignation, that's a big deal. That's actually a really big deal, because it's like, I'm trying to compare it to something where in our current thing, where it's like a top FBI agent, like a kind of like a James Bond, like the best of the best, like messes up royally, and it's like that never happens. That literally shouldn't happen. So, that, anyways, not to ramble on, but that's a big deal. And the people who haven't read the book might not realize that because the movie doesn't really talk about. And in Peter de Vries, he barely does anything, and he's actually a vital. Yeah, he's actually a vital part of all the machinations of the plan, the Harkonnen. The movie makes it seem like it's all barons, but actually Peter is a big part of that plan. The master plan, exactly.
Well, and let me preface, it's not even about, and thank you for that, Joselito. I don't expect the viewers and the director to go deep into that, but the fact that you didn't even mention their names, I mean, you didn't address them being a mentat and a human computer. I mean, that would have been enough just to say that, so they're not, who's the guy with the funny looking lips?
But like I said, me watching it and not knowing, I knew that they were like human computers. When he asked them about how much do you think it costs for them to come down here, and his eyes rolls up, and he's like, and he's like, blah 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 blah, sir.
Yeah, and that's cool, but you need a name with that. That's cool, because otherwise you just think he's an android.
I didn't think he was an android. I didn't think he was an android either.
Okay.
Like I said, and that's me. But that was my point. I caught a lot of stuff for me not to even know the world. I thought it was kind of interesting how I kind of could tell what place everybody kind of had and their placement in it, without it being. And that was kind of, I thought that was kind of interesting. But to know there's more to it, then of course, if you know there's more to it, you would feel slighted by it. But like I said, to me, I caught that because when we were talking about it before, I mentioned that
maybe
was
it succeeded. Cool. Well, maybe it succeeded in that regard. For me, I didn't feel like it because, like Joselito said, with Peter, I mean, you don't even know that Peter does the same thing for the Baron that Thufir does for Duke Leto. You don't see that.
And I knew that. And I knew that too. And I knew that he was the strategist for the other guys too. And like I said, and the only reason why I figured they were the same race or culture is because, they were both pale, and then he had like the little black line on their lip.
From the sapo juice. Yeah.
So I knew that they were both the strategic and calculated folks just because of their behavior. Just like I knew who were kind of like the servants, just like I knew who the warriors were. Like, to me, it was separated out. Now, did I know their names and the backstories? No, but I did know their placement, and they didn't have somebody looking like them as a servant. I noticed that. I know they wasn't warriors.
Okay, well,
to me.
Okay, well, so let me continue. that was just so. I mean, that was the issue. When Paul has to get goes through the Gom Jabbar test with Reverend Helen Gaius Mohiam, the Bene Gesserit woman who comes to Caladan to test Paul. Mm-hmm. I didn't care for that scene at all. That scene was done better in David Lynch's film. Mm-hmm. It was done so much better, much more visual. There is an internal dialogue going on during that scene that we didn't get in this, the way Denny did it, he had Lady Jessica saying Paul's internal thoughts. So, outside the door, I didn't care for that scene at all. There was only one part of that scene that I cared for towards the end, right before she told him to stop. The defiant look Paul gave her when he realized what was going on with her, because she was stunned. Because towards the end of that scene I liked, but most of that scene I didn't care for. It was done better in Lynch's version to me. So I mean, that was the issue, with that I had. Another issue is the color bending of certain characters. People of color all died in this film, and from the person who played Leah Kynes, the dark-skinned black woman with the dreads and in the book, that's a man. And so I don't even know why they even did that. And the way she, we're in the spoiler part of this now, right?
Yeah, and we're just kind of giving information that's kind of going up until the point of, so just kind of
right.
Be careful with the information, because people may not want to compare it.
Right. So in the book, Leah Kynes does die. I can't remember if he got tortured or if he died that same way in the desert, getting stabbed in the back.
He got captured and
by
the Harkonnen.
Right?
Yeah, and then he was released.
So
he was
released.
That.
He changed that whole scene, and I'm like, first of all, okay, you color bend and gender bend this character, which was unnecessary to be so-called progressive and so-called liberal. And I don't want to see any black woman get stabbed in the back in the desert. Okay, that's the issue I had. So I didn't care for that. I mean, I feel like, you could have just used it.
Sorry, Keith, on that, I'm gonna agree with you in the sense that I think what this version didn't tackle, and the reason why the original actually I think worked better having it as a white male as Liet, is because the whole thing about Liet is he's basically an outsider that the Fremen accepted, right? They accepted them as one of their own, which is like in that world, if the Fremen accept you as their own, that's a big deal. He wasn't seen as like an outsider anymore, and that's easier to do where if you have like clearly a white guy versus and he's surrounded by a bunch of people that are not white. So you can see that, you can clearly see that, okay, this guy, it has gone native and he's been accepted. And I think when this movie, I have no problems with Liet being a black woman. I have no problems at all. But my understanding was Liet was supposed to be an outsider, and because they had in this version they had the Fremen, they were like black Fremen, so there wasn't really a homogenous group of Fremen. So you couldn't say, like, when you saw Liet, you couldn't tell if Liet was a native Fremen because there were black Fremen. Not that you can't, but the point of Liet's character was that Liet was supposed to be an outsider that was accepted by the Fremen. And that's one of the first things, whether or not it's right, that's one of the first things, like, as human beings, whether or not people want to say about color or not color, I'm colorblind, subconsciously there's a part of us that does looks at color, and right. then if we see like a homogeneous group, like if I go to Japan or China, for example, maybe I'll be accepted because I might look like them. But if a person that doesn't look, you know what I'm saying? I think that's what the character Liet was supposed to be. So again, I have no problem with Liet's ethnicity at all. But I think that's the one of the things that the director missed the point of that character, what the character was supposed to be.
It backfired. And let me finish though.
So real quick, so wasn't Duncan Idaho kind of like that character that was trying to join with them, that he was kind of infiltrating? wasn't he like that?
Kind of.
Because he kind of played that role, right?
I mean,
he was an outsider.
If you read the book, you think that Duncan Idaho is probably a white guy. Jason Momoa did a great job, but once again, all the people of color in this movie, with the exception of the person who announced for the emperor the ceremony, everybody else got killed. And I'm like, don't put people of color in this story to be inclusive on purpose just to kill them off. Because now you're wasting my time. You could have just left it alone the way it was, and I would have enjoyed it. And I never thought I'd be having this conversation about this with Dune. I never thought I'd be having this conversation, and it angers me that I have to have this conversation and have to explain it to people.
But didn't the characters die anyway, though?
Right, but you're missing my point, Jason. My point is keep them the way they were supposed to be then.
Yeah, because in the Lynch movie, Yui is white, so he actually and Keith is right. When I realized, yes, all of the non-white people died in this movie. I think the only one is I guess Stilgar is the only one so far, obviously, but everybody else of color died in this movie.
But wait, there's more. So here's the real rub. The first person Paul Atreides kills is a black man, Jameis. They made Jameis a black man? Really? This is how we're going to end the movie? This is what you're going to do? And I'm supposed to be happy with that? Seriously? You made the Freeman multiracial, which was a mistake. Now, if you made them all black or all Hispanic or all anything indigenous, then there's consistency, then I don't have a problem. But he went out of his way to make the Freeman multiracial.
And then it does look like when he kills Jarvis that, wait a minute. Or something. Jameis, Jameis, yeah. Wait a minute, but he happens to be a black guy. Like, I just realized that it does look, because when you watch the movie, Paul is obviously the main character hero, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. So, but then now I realize, wait a minute, from that perspective, it could shift people, audience members' loyalties, because because in the original that James guy is kind of like a jerk, and I mean
but he's not black. He looks like all the other Freeman.
Yes. But it does look like he's being singled out, like a black guy is being singled out when you do that.
So it was a 1, 2, 3 punch. And my thing is, because you've done that, now you're changing this narrative for me into like a white savior messiah story. And Dune wasn't. When I read the Dune books, that's not how I felt. And I don't feel that way about the books at all, or Lynch's movie, or even the awful miniseries. The miniseries wasn't awful; it just looked awful. But I didn't feel that way about that. But with this, now you're heading in that direction, and I don't think that's his intent. But because racism can be so embedded in European culture and white American culture, this is problematic for me.
I think a lot of that stuff is due with timing and stuff. The thing about it is, it's almost kind of a sticky thing in the first place. It's almost kind of like when I look back on different movies and I think, man, there was no inclusion. But then when they remake it, then it's like I can't hurt the characters now because they included different races in there. So it's almost a mixed
not,
bag.
Jason. But it's not. And let me tell you why it's not.
Okay, tell me why.
Because they know damn well these characters are going to get killed. So when you race bend these characters, it's like when you do it the way it was done in Dune and in other stories, it shows me that you're lazy. Instead of creating characters of color, you just, let's just flip these. Everybody can't be Iris West on Flash. And that worked, but that doesn't always work. When you color bend, especially if you color bending somebody who's black, Latin, or Asian, there's different connotations with each one, and you need to be cognizant of that. So that's it's not that. It's like the whole thing about, we'll put black people in the horror movies now, but now we'll kill them first. No,
Okay,
that's not cute and funny. No.
So what would happen
Don't put
when
the
this
internet on
sci-fi
there.
movie comes out? He releases the movie, came out, this week like everything, and it was like all white characters in there, all white actors in that movie. What would people be saying?
I would have been fine with it. I wouldn't have had no
so
problem with it.
that's one. And then the other people, what would be the, because people, like, that's almost like the same thing would happen with because movies nowadays, if they try to pull that, even though I don't have an issue with it, if they were all white, that's fine. I grew up watching movies like that, I'm fine with it. But movies get canceled for crap like that from not having no other folks in there. I don't like how they force it. I don't like how they force it, but then also, if they don't have it, then it's gonna be issues.
If you want to make the Atreides all black, okay, now that's interesting.
Yeah.
Or if you want to make the Fremen all Hispanic, that's interesting. All they did was half-ass it and
would they still die though, or would they live?
And that's fine. They can still die. But make it consistent. Okay. But make it consistent.
But
if all the Fremen were black, I wouldn't have had an issue with that.
I see what you're saying, Keith, because when you kind of sprinkle it with different, especially if we're talking about like a homogenous group, because that's what it is. The Fremen are supposed to be a homogenous group. I mean, literally, if you're a Fremen, you were born on that planet, and you grew up in that planet. It's not like the difference in Dune versus like in our reality is that you can easily travel from country to country, but you cannot just easily travel from planet to planet. So if you are a Fremen, you pretty much grew up there, and more than likely you're gonna look very similar to one another, just like white people look like each other, or so on and so forth. And like Keith was saying, if the Atreides were all black, that would be actually interesting. I never even thought of. Until this movie. The odd thing about it is, until this movie, I never even thought of color. Like, that was the last thing on my mind. But this movie, for some reason, now I'm like thinking about color, and it's becoming. It almost became more politicized for me, and it kind of got in the way of a little bit of my enjoyment of this movie.
Yeah, I'm really pissed.
Yeah.
You
But that
took
doesn't
my
change.
sacred cow and fucked it up.
But it still doesn't change. Like I said, they put inclusion in movies, not necessarily because they want to, but because they know if they don't put it in a movie that's coming out today, it's going to be an issue.
Do it right or don't do it at all.
And that could be good or bad. But I've known movies that got canceled just because they were all white.
Well, I mean, do it
And like
right
I said,
or don't do it
wouldn't-
at all.
I
I've been very consistent about that. As far as
consistent or not, still, but
And the thing about it is, when you Jason, when you talk about those movies when they're all white, but I think from that perspective, the outcry for that is, it's like in some of those movies, they have white people trying to play other ethnicities.
that's definitely a problem too. Like the Egypt one.
Yeah, that's exactly. Or like back in the day when they had Ben Kingsley try, be painted as if he's an Indian person. He's not Indian, right?
Right.
So, right?
Get my
was
Oscar
Gandhi,
anyway.
Gandhi, right?
Right.
But I think the like what Keith is saying about the changing the ethnicity, what they should have just. It's the same argument that I've heard about when they talk about like say making Superman black, right? Okay, that's fine, whatever. Instead of doing that, there are like other non-white characters, or just create a character.
Yes.
Don't use the one that historically has been a certain, where people have gotten used to that character being a certain ethnicity, and change it. Just add a new character. They can do whatever they want. I mean, this movie was like not totally the same as the book. There were changes, so that's some of the things. You could have added a new character to this movie. You could have totally, like the thing with Paul, you could have had, if you have Paul have like add a friend where they have like a maybe like one of the servants had a kid that grew up with Paul, because the servant lived within the palace with Paul, and it's like a non-white non-white friend. That could be a character you can add without having to compromise the characters that are already embedded in there for the sake of trying to do the inclusion. But it looks like it's a forced inclusion versus like you're just, you know what I'm, if that makes sense.
No, I totally understand. And like I said, to me, with the characters, I never knew of them really before now, so they were what they were. I'm fine with them being wherever they're supposed to be. Like I said, I'd have been fine if they were all white. But I'm saying the reason probably why they changed everybody. So, because I'm one for like I said, I don't want a black Batman. I don't want a black Superman. Just make new characters or characters that are around and do something with them. So I'm not into forced tokenization of characters that I love. I don't even like when they changed up Superman. And I'm like, just make up a new character. But some people like to change, right?
I hear you.
Okay, so same stuff. So trying to appease, and I think we're going through that with a lot of different things, especially with like in comics and stuff like that. It's a lot of like all of a sudden gay characters that wasn't mentioned to be gay before, a lot of black characters that wasn't black before. You do a lot of changes and stuff, and it's just kind of like, do you think that we are so easy to good word, thirsty? Like, that's almost insulting, but they it's a quick shorthand, but I think it's kind of not cool to do it like that.
I think the reason why you do that is because like, for example, like let's say Superman, because Superman is obviously one of the most popular superheroes. Obviously, he's like, everybody loves Superman. Yeah. So Superman is already entrenched in our mind, in our history as growing up as kids, and we grew up and we love Superman. And so it's easier to do, let's just make this beloved hero, non-white, versus just saying, hey, wait a minute, we have Black Panther, we have Luke Cage, we have in DC, what is the guy that shoots lightning bolts? I can't remember his name. Black Lightning.
Mr. Terrific.
Why can't we just we already have like great black heroes. Why can't we obviously we did that. They did do that with Black Panther, but there's like a lot, and people who don't follow comics, and they don't realize that there are like a lot of great non-white heroes that they could promote. They don't have to, because I think they're trying to stick with what everybody knows, and so it's easier for them.
They're lazy.
They're just
and they're half-assing, like I said earlier.
Exactly.
They're half-assing, and it's insulting to everyone, whether they know it or not.
Well, the ones who don't really follow comics, I think they like the changes. So because they don't really.
Well, the
follow.
irony is, have they gave us Mr. Terrific? Have they gave us, Icon and Hardware? Have they gave us the other people? You might get some non-comic book fans to become comic book fans. Yeah, a lot of people get turned off because they don't want to see Superman and Wonder Woman and Marvel. They get tired of it.
Yeah, because Mr. Terrific is actually a perfect example of somebody he's like smarter than Batman. Yes. I mean, people don't know that. He's like, Batman.
He got to be the third smartest man in the world. That bothered me too. How come he can't be number one? But no, you're right.
Who, Mr. Terrific?
Well, according to the comic book, he's the third smartest man in the world.
No, I thought he was number one. I thought he was considered number one. Okay,
he's number 3 or number 2, but he ain't number 1.
I know he's up there to the top, guys. It's like Batman, Lex Luthor, Mr. Terrific, and somebody else. I can't remember who else, but there's some ones up there.
I always like to see out of the Marvel and DC smart guys, which you pit them against each other, who would be like the smartest one. Yeah, exactly.
And Lex and Mr. Terrific, they can go back and forth. I'm okay with them alternating because they're both brilliant.
but what I think is really unfortunate is that these movies and this IP gets switched around for people who, who's not even into the source material anyway. And so it's just kind of interesting how they're so lax and just do whatever they want to do. But it's kind of like, what made it popular in the first place? What about the ones the day oneers who just kind of want their people to be how they were? And it's almost like you're watching and paying for familiar strangers. It's like I know this guy since I was a little kid. How do I not recognize this hero that I've been watching all my life?
It's literally Jason. Like if I grew up and I knew you and we were like really great friends, like man, Jason is this awesome guy. And then one day, like you visit my house and you're like a white guy. well, where's Jason? Like, hey, I'm still Jason, right? It's literally like that, and from that perspective, then maybe people could realize if you told them from that perspective, maybe some people can realize how ridiculous it is when you do something like that, even if it's in a fictional context, like a story or even if it's not real. But if you put it in that context, I think people would realize that just how bizarre that would be.
But it is crazy how they take the taste of one group of people and then offset it for another group of people. It's just funny. Like I said, they think enough of the material enough to take it, but don't respect it enough to keep it in line.
No, they don't.
It's crazy.
They don't. It's very frustrating.
Hey, this is Jay, and I hope you're enjoying the conversation so far. I just want to let you know that this conversation is part of a larger conversation that continues on the next episode. Thanks for listening.